Hello and welcome to the Alex Nitzberg Show. I'm Alex Nitzberg, and today, instead of interviewing a guest, I'm going to discuss the LGBT movement in America, and specifically I'm going to delve into issues including the media, academia, and the business world. But before I get into that, I want to talk about an upcoming Supreme Court case that is going to have some significant ramifications. The case is about Jack Phillips. He's a Colorado baker, and he's the owner of Masterpiece Cake Shop. And he's a Christian, and he declined to make a wedding cake for a gay couple. And so the two gay men filed a complaint, and the judge ruled against Jack Phillips, saying that he either had to produce cakes for gay weddings or not produce wedding cakes at all. And I want to read you a quote from ADF, the Alliance Defending Freedom. That's the group defending him, from their website. They have on there, this is a pretty long quote. It says, Alliance Defending Freedom, ADF attorneys, and ADF allied attorneys came to Jack's defense when the couple filed a complaint with the Colorado Civil Rights Commission for sexual orientation discrimination. Even after explaining to the commission that it wasn't the people Jack objected to, it was the message the cake would send about marriage, an administrative law judge ruled against Jack in December 2013, saying that designing and creating cakes for same-sex wedding ceremonies are not speech protected by the First Amendment. The commission ordered Jack and his staff to either violate Jack's faith by designing custom wedding cakes that celebrate same-sex marriages, or stop designing all wedding cakes, which was approximately 40% of Jack's business. In addition, Jack and his staff were ordered to go through and they have in quotes, re-education, and then it says program, and file quarterly, quote, compliance, end quote, reports, telling the government every time that Jack declines a custom cake request and explaining the reasons why. Now, clearly, that is the hallmark of an oppressive government. Should all bakers be forced to produce products that are celebrating that which they oppose? But I want to make a couple of points about this. Point number one, it's important to note that Jack is not unwilling to serve them, period. He's just not willing to make them a wedding cake. He is willing to sell them cookies, birthday cakes. He's not willing to make a wedding cake. Second of all, there are other kinds of cakes he's not willing to do. For instance, he's not willing to create a Halloween-themed cake. Okay? And so here's some questions about this. Should a florist be required to supply bouquets for a gay wedding? Should the limo driver or the food caterers be required and forced by government to participate in an event which they adamantly oppose? Where does this all end? Okay, and check this out. The Daily Signal reported that on September 30th, Jack received an email requesting that he bake a Satan-related cake. Seriously. I'm going to read to you what this email says, okay? Here's what the email that Jack received said. It says, "Here is the cake request. Dear Mr. Phillips, I would like to get a quote on a birthday cake for a special event. It is a cake that is religious in theme, and since religion is a protected class, I am hoping that you will gladly bake this cake. As you see, the birthday cake in question is to celebrate the birthday of Lucifer, or as they are also known, Satan, who was born as Satan when he was cast from heaven by God. The cake only needs to be a simple 9x13 single-layer cake with red and black icing, as well as to contain an upside-down cross under the head of Lucifer. And I thought I would seek you out to bake this cake since you appear to be a very moral person, since you refuse to bake a cake for same-sex couples. And since religion is a protected class, I hope you will be willing to bake this cake so my small group of religious friends can celebrate the birthday of Lucifer this coming November, just a few days after Halloween." Okay, so that's ridiculous. And the Daily Signal also reported that there was a phone call with another Satan-related cake request. Here's the quote from the Daily Signal's article. It says, "Lawyers told the Daily Signal that Phillips received a second Satan-themed cake request by phone this month, this time asking that Satan be depicted smoking a joint." Okay, wow. That's crazy. This is ridiculous. And here's a question. What if someone decided to ask Muslim bakers to make a cake with a picture of Muhammad on it? How do you think that would go over? In fact, how do you think that the left would react to that? Do you think that they would be like, yeah, we should use the power of government to force Muslims to bake a cake that has an image of Muhammad on it, even though they vehemently oppose that? I don't think the left would be in favor of that. So this is a really important, this case about whether or not the government can force you to make a cake that violates your religious beliefs. This is going to be important. So pay attention to this. It's going to be very important. And so this ties into what I'm going to talk about next, in the sense that I'm talking about the LGBT movement in America. And so now I want to get into the media, academia, and the business world, and how they are basically siding with the LGBT movement and therefore against social conservatives who oppose that movement. All right, so let me start out with the media, and specifically an organization called the NLGJA. And it's the Association of LGBTQ Journalists. And NLGJA stands for the National Lesbian Gay Journalists Association, although they seem to basically just go by NLGJA, the Association of LGBTQ Journalists. That's what they go by now, it seems, most of the time. But if you look at this organization and some of the sponsors of their events, you'll get an idea of how the media is supporting the LGBT agenda. The NLGJA's Headlines and Headliners 22nd Annual New York Benefit in April 2017. If you look at that, at some of the sponsors there, here are some of the sponsors. Comcast, NBC Universal, CBS News, ABC News, CNN, Bloomberg, The New York Post, and even Fox News. And they were not all at the same level of sponsorship, but they're all listed. And the Fox News thing is important, and if you are shocked by the fact that Fox was on there, let me point out to you that this is not a new phenomenon. If you look at the 2015 version of this same event, guess who was included on the sponsors list? Fox News Channel, ABC News, Comcast, NBC Universal, CBS News, CNN, and Bloomberg. So this is not new for Fox News. It's not new for some of these others either. And also, if you look at the National Convention in Philadelphia in September 2017, so this just happened last month, and this is the same organization, the NLGJA, the Association of LGBTQ Journalists. Some of the sponsors for this convention last month include Fox News is listed as an editorial sponsor, ESPN and Google News Lab are listed as feature sponsors, Comcast, NBC Universal, and the Gannett Foundation are under trend sponsors. And I want to stop right there for a second and just note that Gannett, the Gannett Company, they own USA Today. And if you look up the Gannett Company and look at all the media organizations that they own, you might even find that they own a local newspaper in your area because they own a lot of local media stuff as well. But also, CBS News and McClatchy are listed as news brief sponsors, and CNN is listed as the news source sponsor. And I'm not exactly sure what all of those sponsorship designations mean, but obviously, these news organizations that are controlling vast swaths of the news media are throwing their support behind this LGBT journalists association. And so that pretty much illustrates what I'm talking about here. I've just named most major media organizations, but I want to move on and talk about something else specifically called NBC Out. And what I'm referring to there is a section on NBCnews.com's website, and it deals with LGBT stories. That's what they print, NBC Out. It's interesting, actually. NBC.com, they have a bunch of sections. They have NBC Asian America, something along those lines. They've got NBC BLK, which I think basically stands for NBC Black. They've got NBC Latino, and then they have this NBC Out. And so they're just dedicated to LGBT-related stories on this section. And for example, they had an article once that it was called 15 Recently Released LGBTQ Books for Your Summer Reading List. And then here's a quote from a piece that they had in March. But this is a quote from the NBC Out piece. It said, 15 states have so-called bathroom bills on the table, which would prevent transgender kids and teens from being able to access gender-appropriate restrooms, locker rooms, and other sex-segregated facilities at school. And what I said at the time when I was writing about this, I'm like, this is a twisted use of the phrase gender-appropriate, because obviously the most gender-appropriate bathroom or locker room for a biological boy would be the boy's room, and for a biological girl, it would be the girl's room. And the fact that this issue has degenerated into a societal debate demonstrates the cultural chasm that has developed as the radical left seeks to promote this LGBT agenda and this revolution to redefine gender. Something else about the media I want to bring up. CBSN. On the CBS News website, it says, quote, CBS News' 24/7 digital streaming news service. That's what the CBSN thing is. You go online, you can watch stuff on there. So they have this thing called Gender, the Space Between. It was a CBSN Originals documentary. If you look at the description underneath the video on the CBS News website, it says, CBSN Originals explores the intricate world of gender beyond him or her. And I didn't watch the entire thing. I wouldn't recommend that you do either. There was some material in it that I found to be lewd and inappropriate. But based on the parts I've seen, it looks like it's kind of a sympathetic portrait telling you about the space between genders and the gender fluidity and the gender spectrum and all these sort of new ideas with the LGBT movement is promoting. Now, I also want to mention USA Today, which I mentioned earlier in conjunction with Gannett. They had an article on USA Today's website on their Entertain This section. It was called Podcast Picks Ahead of Pride Month. All right, so I think you're getting the idea at this point with the news media, but I also want to point out, it's not just the news media, it's also the entertainment media that you can see promoting the LGBT agenda. So let me give you some examples. CBS's Madam Secretary TV show had a character on it, and then recently, I'd say in the last year or so, at some point, they revealed that this character was bisexual. And then NBC Superstore, it's a comedy show on NBC, but they have gay characters, and they even include gay dating relationships in the storyline as part of the show, as if this is like a normal thing. Okay, and then this is the worst, what I'm about to tell you here. Disney Junior has a show called Doc McStuffins that actually airs on Disney Junior and the Disney Channel. And that show was actually promoting the attempt to normalize the two-mom family, like a homosexual family. What I'm talking about is there was this episode, and there was this two-mom family with two children, and at the beginning of the episode, one of the characters asked the little boy, where are your moms? Plural. Like, he asked the little boy, where are your moms? And then shortly thereafter, he tells the little boy, you can have a ride if it's okay with your moms, plural. And so Disney Junior targets young children. According to DisneyABCPress.com, Disney Junior, and this is a quote, Disney Junior, part of Disney Channels worldwide, is a global multi-platform brand expressly for kids age 2 to 7. 2 to 7. Okay, so this platform that's for kids age 2 to 7 is targeting young children with this pro-homosexual messaging, that this is just another kind of family, this is normal. All right, but I also want to talk to you about academia as well. While colleges ostensibly exist to educate, many institutions propagate radical ideology that defies reality. And I'm going to back up that assertion. I'm going to give you some examples here. People may not realize that many colleges in America accommodate and promote the LGBT agenda, but some colleges actually have what is called an LGBT resource center. And Rutgers University's Center for Social Justice, Education, and LGBT Communities has this statement. I'm going to read it to you. It says, gender identity is the inward sense of being man, woman, both, neither, or any other gender, parenthesis S, genders. This identity is not visible. Gender expression is an outward means of expressing a person's gender and can include mannerisms, clothing, hair, and other modes of expression. While gender expression is often visible, it is not necessarily an indicator of a person's identity. And then listen to this final line. The only way to know a person's gender is if they tell you. If they tell you. And this is on Rutgers University's Center for Social Justice, Education, and LGBT Communities. So basically, in the twisted logic of the choose-your-own gender, a world of contrived gender identities, boys can be girls, girls can be boys, and anyone can declare themselves to be something in between, a combination of both, or something entirely foreign to the male-female dichotomy. And this kind of thinking is what I have deemed intellectual insanity. What I mean by that, it's where radicalism reigns over reality, and where political correctness supplants truth, morality, and even objective biology. But let me give you some more examples of what I'm talking about here. The University of Southern California's LGBT Resource Center includes the following quotes. It has a section that says, gender does not determine sex, and sex does not determine gender. It has another thing that says, transgender is part of human diversity. It is not something to be fixed, and it is no less, quote, normal than non-transgender identities. And then it's got in parentheses, really, there is no such thing as, quote, normal, ... So this is the University of Southern California's LGBT Resource Center. But I want to give you more examples, okay? The University of California, Davis, UC Davis, their lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, intersex, asexual resource center, and Utah Valley University's LGBT Student Services, they both have this on their site. They have, quote, instead of saying someone was born a boy or a girl, try saying they were assigned male at birth or were assigned female. These terms recognize the difference between sex and gender and emphasize the ways in which sex and gender are assigned to individuals at birth rather than being innate, binary, or immutable qualities. And both of those colleges I mentioned, they had that posted. Now, whether it's original to one and the other one stole it or wherever they got it from, they both had it posted. So they're obviously expressing support for these ideas. And if you're thoroughly confused at this point, and you're wondering how on earth educational institutions could possibly promote these ideas, then allow me to welcome you to the post-truth world of academia, where feelings take precedent over facts and where biology bows to ideology. Now, a post-truth was Oxford Dictionary's word of the year in 2016, and this is what it means. It means relating to or denoting circumstances in which objective facts are less influential in shaping public opinion than appeals to emotion and personal belief. And so, the term post-truth, it provides a very apt description of what we're talking about here. This idea of There's not just two genders, and gender and sex are different. What all these things we're talking about. Think about that. Relating to or denoting circumstances in which objective facts are less influential in shaping public opinion than appeals to emotion and personal belief. So post-truth, the post-truth world of academia. And some other stuff I wanted to mention before I move on. There are courses at colleges, and one of them is called Queer Theory. You'll find a Queer Theory course at some colleges. And other courses as well. I'm just mentioning that one, but you can find a lot of bizarre gender-related courses at colleges. And this I want to mention as well. This is just super bizarre. The University of Houston actually offers something, voice feminizing and masculinizing. And this is what it says. It says, quote, voice evaluation and intervention programs are available for transgender individuals who are interested in working on voice feminization or masculinization. Seriously, you can find this if you want to look at this yourself. Now, here's my question. What will happen when the liberal graduates of these institutions enter the workforce and seek to compel societal acceptance of their radical ideology? Now, I want to move on and talk about business as well. The business world. Okay, so it's not just the media and academia that have sided with the LGBT movement in many cases. If you look at the business world, you will see a lot of examples of these big businesses that are supporting LGBT organizations and LGBT-related events. And when you come to understand the vast scope of the amount of businesses that are doing this, you will come to realize that it will be very, very difficult to boycott, because sometimes conservatives want to boycott organizations when they're doing something that they disagree with, or when they're promoting an ideology they disagree with. And I, of course, understand the desire to want to do that. But when you start realizing how many organizations, how many businesses are supporting these things, you realize how problematic that's going to be. Because the businesses that are supporting these LGBT-related things, they're your financial institution, they're your car manufacturer, your soda company, the company that gets the oil for your gasoline. They're the stores that you shop at, they're your favorite hotel chain, etc. So if you look at the sponsors for instance, a pride event, like a pride parade or something like that, you'll figure out what I'm talking about. But I'm going to give you this example of the Human Rights Campaign, which is a pro-LGBT organization. So if you look at their list of national corporate partners listed on their website, you will find, and these are some, not all, but these are some of their national corporate partners listed on their website. Apple, Microsoft, Intel, Google, Dell, IBM, and Amazon. But here's some more. The Coca-Cola Company and PepsiCo, the Hershey Company and Starbucks, Tylenol, Target, Lyft, Lexus, Chevron, Shell, and BP, Nike, Pfizer, and Macy's Inc. And then also, here's a bunch of financial institutions: Goldman Sachs, Capital One, Citi, Ameriprise Financial, U.S. Bank, Prudential, TD Bank, Morgan Stanley, Lincoln Financial Group. Now, I'm only talking about the Human Rights Campaign right now. But I'm telling you, if you look up other things, there are other like pro-LGBT advocacy groups. There are events like, pride parades and all that kind of stuff. And if you start looking at the sponsors, you're going to realize, wow, like the corporate America, the business world, they are really backing the LGBT movement in a big way. So I want to conclude here by saying that the revolution to redefine gender and to normalize various permutations of sexual proclivity has already begun, and many in the media, academia, and the business world have sided with the LGBT agenda. And after the gay marriage ruling was on the books, transgenderism appeared to be the new frontier, the new frontier that we're going to push in the LGBT movement. But it is a movement, and as such, it keeps moving. And, after transgenderism is normalized, which it probably will be, what's going to be next? It will probably progress to something else. And even now, the idea of a gender spectrum, or this non-binary nature of gender as being something fluid and all this, like I talked about earlier, this is being promoted by some. So those who dissent and denounce the immorality and the intellectual insanity of this movement will likely be attacked. And just to come back to what I was talking about earlier with Jack Phillips, where I started, make sure you pay attention to Jack Phillips' case, because the outcome of this is going to be very important. Will Americans be able to say, no, I do not want to support a gay wedding ceremony by creating a cake. I do not want to be involved in that. I don't want to do that. No. Will they be able to say no, or will the government force them? Will they be forced to do something that violates their conscience if they want to continue doing their job? So stay tuned for that. All right, so I want to thank you for listening to the Alex Nitzberg Show. I'd appreciate it if you would please share this episode and just the show in general with your friends and family, and invite them to subscribe on iTunes, subscribe to my YouTube channel, just check out the show. And if you haven't heard all the previous episodes, This is the first episode I've done just by myself, but I've had a lot of interesting interviews with people, so go back and check those out. Also, if you would like to sign up for the Alex Nitzberg email update, my email list, you can get on my Facebook page, facebook.com/Alex Nitzberg, and sign up for that. And I would appreciate that. And just want to thank you for listening, and I hope you will join me on the next episode of the Alex Nitzberg Show.